Morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mindful Morning with me, Ashley Walkneen. And I've got a test I want to try out with you today, okay? First of all, which do you tend to agree with more? The statement of, if I want to be creative, I have to work at it, or I either got it or I don't. Here's one more for you. Anyone can create something genius given the right circumstances, or creative genius is something you are born with. So these are two very different mindsets, right? One is a mindset that is very fixed, where you believe that creativity, intelligence, skill sets are something that you are born with, and they don't really change that much over time. And the other is what we would call a growth mindset. You believe that, you may be born with it, you may not be, but anything can be, through experience, learned and shifted, and you can grow, and ultimately you can succeed. Honestly, there is a philosophical debate that you could have for both mindsets, I think, because it really is a belief system, and belief systems in general are philosophical arguments. Both people could argue for creativity as being something you're born with or something that's a learnable skill. And I tend to find that sometimes in this particular area, this belief system, people will say, oh, I have a growth mindset, but their experience, their actions, their behavior will suggest something different. So I suggest that you go back and you look at your experience on this one. Historically, what has your behavior shown to you over time? In terms of the way you respond to criticism, people with a fixed mindset tend to be more defensive. They tend to have a fixed idea that they're right, or that their ideas are right, and they also have a fixed need to be right. Also, having a look at how consistent you are over time. People with a fixed mindset tend to take on less challenging projects, to be less resilient, to quit faster, because somewhere in the background there is that idea that maybe it's pointless because you've either got it or you don't. So instead of looking at these mindsets as a belief system where it's black and white, my suggestion is, which mindset is most likely to take you further if you act from that? And obviously, the growth mindset is most likely to take you further. With a fixed mindset, if you're coming from that belief system, you're never really going to be able to say for sure whether it didn't work out because that's just true, that belief is true, or because your actions were coming from that belief system and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're proving that belief to yourself over and over and over again. So I want to offer 3 suggestions for how you can shift into a growth mindset kind of action style this morning, and give yourself the opportunity to take your work further. And the first suggestion I have is that you put more work out there. Put as much work out there as you can in order to receive more feedback and go through more rejection. Now that might sound like, oh, really hard, but when you put yourself in that situation where you're getting that feedback and you're dealing with that rejection, it's that opportunity to stop yourself from jumping in and defending your work, to take a minute to really be open and receptive to what people have to say to you before you make the decision whether you want to listen or not. The second suggestion I have is that you take massive, imperfect action consistently, whether your mind is telling you you should quit, or it's pointless, or this was a permanent defeat. If you combine massive imperfect action on a consistent basis, along with putting as much work out there as you can to get that feedback, you can practice shifting into that growth kind of mindset, which takes me to number 3. Probably the most helpful suggestion that I have is, while you're doing steps 1 and 2, you set a deadline for yourself. Where you can reevaluate things. Your mind is going to tell you that maybe this is pointless, or maybe you can't hack it, or whatever. And instead of allowing that belief system to dictate your ultimate fate, you set yourself a deadline to reevaluate whether that's true or not. And you make it far enough in advance that you can employ massive imperfect action consistently, that you can put enough work out there, get enough feedback to really let the evidence determine whether, you know, whether this is going to work out or not. So that is going to allow you to say to your mind, okay, that may or that may not be true, but we're going to go from this growth mindset kind of action mentality and let the jury be out on this one. We'll deliberate whether that's true or not down the road on the deadline we've set for ourselves. So those are just some ideas. First of all, just to recap, to shift into that growth mindset so that you give yourself the opportunity to really put yourself out there and your work out there, to throw as much out there as you can, get that feedback, deal with that rejection in an open, receptive kind of way. And the second is to continue taking massive imperfect action regardless of what your belief system in your mind is telling you at the time. And then third, to set a deadline for yourself so that you can let the evidence prove to you whether something is working or not, as opposed to the belief system prematurely dictating the decisions you make about this particular project. So I hope that's helpful. I'll put that cheat sheet inside the Mindful Morning Toolbox. If you are not opted into the toolbox, jump in there. I've got a whole bunch of actionable resources, cheat sheets, exercises to help you take some of these ideas and apply them to your life in a more actionable way. Thanks for joining me this morning. Like it if you like it. Leave a comment, write a review, share this with other people. Let me know what kind of mindset you are discovering for yourself as you look back and on your history and what your behavior has to say. Okay, y'all, have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.